Welcome to Peaceful Power Project, a podcast dedicated to physical, mental, and emotional health and well-being. I am sincerely grateful that this guest today has taken time out of her day to connect. This is someone, so I often refer to social media as it can be used as what a tool or a weapon. And this is someone who, for years, I've seen use it as the most like brilliant tool ever. I'll get right to introducing Michelle Schroff. You probably know her as Waddell Running Lady, which, it took me months into a year to kind of figure out that Waddell is a place in Arizona.
Yeah.
But myself, as a older new runner, I started running at 41 and I was just a bit discouraged about what I was seeing out there. I thought I kind of missed the boat, and as someone who, I mean, things may have shifted a bit on the journey, but like my goals were not grand. I was seeing things that were making me feel a certain way. And when I
Mhm.
came across not only I had no idea why I'm wearing Sally Choose Strong's hat because Michelle is usually sporting one. So I'm honoring Michelle with that. I don't know how I stumbled upon you. It could have been from a cross post from Sally, but it's exactly what I needed when I needed. This podcast is peace and power. And to me, Michelle represents that so much. And the word authentic is what comes across when I think about Michelle. Michelle is 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 true to her, and puts it out. I don't want to say the good, the bad, and the gritty, but like the
Yeah.
but just everything out there. So I'm just so grateful to have Michelle on the podcast today. I'll let Michelle go ahead and do a bit of an intro, like who you are, and what's important for us to know about
Mhm.
you.
Well, first of all, I'm absolutely honored. You said all those nice things. I'm just a regular person, just like you, and nobody special, I promise. But I am honored to be here. So I think the most important things to know about me is I believe my faith is the most important. So that comes above everything else because if that's right, it just kind of helps the rest of my world, everything fall into place. I've been married for 32 years to my husband, Dustin. I have 6 kids. The oldest is 30, the youngest is 15, and 2 grandbabies, little girls, and a third one on the way coming in the spring.
Congratulations.
Um, Thank you. I am so excited. Those babies are like my life. I would follow, especially the little oldest one that just turned 4 yesterday, Esri, chaotic, wild thing. I would follow that baby anywhere. She's just anyhow. And running, I found kind of later as well, a little bit later than you did. I was almost 44, and it's a long story that we can get into later, but I was almost 44 when I started running, and it has changed my life in so many ways. Um, I it has brought me out of my shell. I know social media, it gives me a safe place to express myself. And I feel like a lot of times when people meet me or, they're like, you're such a people person. I'm not. And I'm not. I'm actually reserved, and I'm actually like it's so funny because social media has given me the opportunity to actually express myself in ways that maybe I wouldn't feel comfortable in person. You know what I'm saying? And sharing things that would be hard to share maybe face to face with somebody. Um, I don't know. That's all I can think of at the moment. So tell me what else you you want to
Yeah,
know.
I would love to know your, and I know it's certainly all relative, right? Like the later in life running journey, just that we weren't like running kids. You
No,
know what so let's just go with that. But what got you to lace up and
okay.
take that step out there?
Sure. So it starts when I was about 21. I had my second baby. Austin, which he recently passed. I'm sorry, that's a huge part of my story. But with my second baby, I gained like 70 pounds, seriously. And that Austin's birth, and then the babies I had later, every time I would get pregnant, I would gain so much weight. And then I would hit another yo-yo diet and I would drop all the weight. I would get pregnant again. I would gain it all back. It just happened years and over a lot of time. By the time I was in my early 40s, I was like, I'm tired of this. Like, quit doing the yo-yo stuff. I started losing my hair. My hormones were affected. My husband was like, really? I'm supposed to live with you like this? I was obsessed with what was going in and out of my mouth at all times. And I wanted to change, for the good. And so I kind of started this journey again. And over the period of about a year, I really started being consistent with walking, with hiking, with, paddle boarding, doing all these things I had never done before, and lost everything but the last 10 pounds. I was working out with a friend one day and I said, I just can't get these last 10 pounds off. And she's like, why don't you start jogging? And I'm like, jogging, running, like, I can't do that. And she wasn't a runner either, but she's like, Michelle, you've hiked the Grand Canyon, you've done all these things in your 40s that you've never done before. Why can't you run? So I just said, nah, and I kept telling her no. But I went home and I started doing some research. Like, could I really do this? And that research led me to the conclusion that maybe I could, and I downloaded the Couch to 5K app. Over the period of about 8 weeks, I started thinking, maybe I can do this. And I showed up all by myself to a 5K and ran the whole thing, got the medal around my neck, and I was hooked. That medal around the neck was what did it for me, because I wasn't into sports as a kid. I was always the last one to be picked for any teams at school. I was unathletic. I was a couch potato my entire life. Up until about a year before this happened. And I was like, wow, that felt awesome. I want to do it again. And it just spiraled from there.
I love that. Yeah, when people come to me now and they're like, they think they're beyond that point, whatever that point is, like, I
Yeah.
can't start running now. My first thought is that they could redefine what running is. Because all
Yes.
I was seeing was running was XYZ paces, XYZ distances, where my running couched to 5K as well.
Mhm.
Well, the one I started was like 30 seconds running,
Yes. Yes.
1 minute walk or 1 to 2, I don't know the
Yeah.
formula, but so if that reframe of like what it means to get out and run, if I asked any of those people, you think you could jog for 30 seconds? I
Right.
would, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I love that. What do you think? I'm curious because it started out with like a weight loss intention, a frustration with what you had been doing wasn't really working, but you did mention like a consistency even pre-running um to getting outdoors. I'm curious like why then was like it easier to consistently go out hiking or going on these like adventures or things that you hadn't tried before. What do you think it was in terms of like where you were in life?
So I had just, when I started, like I told you, that year of consistency before I became a runner, my grandma was like 95. She had come to live with me for a couple of weeks. It was a terrible situation. It was terrible while she was here, extremely stressful. Other people in the family were just calling and yelling at me and accusing me of all kinds of things. And I had already, my brother had been murdered, shot and killed. My mother had died from ovarian cancer not too long before this. Um, it- I had gone through a lot of things, and raising 6 children, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. I've been a stay-at-home mom. My life was centered around taking care of other people, and I didn't ever do anything for myself. When my grandma left, I decided I am done. This was so stressful. I have to do something for me. I have to, or I'm gonna, go crazy. And that was the catalyst that caused me to reach out to, it was a lady actually. I thought I was reaching out to a nutritionist. No, she was more like a personal trainer. She started coming to my house and she would measure me and stuff for weight, but also she's like, you need to start riding a bike. You need to start lifting weights. You need to start doing this. Come on, let's go walking. And she kind of got me to a point where I was able to take off on my own. And I started feeling so good that I couldn't stop after that. And I forgot to add, I did end up losing that last 10 pounds, right? When I started running, but that's not why I continued to run. I found when I realized how good that finish line felt, that first 5K, the weight just kind of that didn't matter anymore. And as you can see, I've gained back all the weight that I lost, but I've gained so much more. That means so much more that is not why I continue to run. I run for me.
Yeah, I love that. What starts is like this little but and what started having this like person come in and support you. I love how you
Yeah,
describe this individual like, all
yeah,
right, we're doing this and this
she
and this
did. Yep.
because when you haven't what you shared like been in a position of caring for yourself, having that yes accountability, but it sort of sounded like an enthusiasm and a
Yeah.
support like however it came across. So that's what I'm hearing. And then um everything that may have been the initial entry, right,
Yes.
transformed
Yes.
into more, and
Yes.
as did your 5K distance
Yeah.
transformed into more. I because I'll invite Michelle to share, but Michelle has covered some extraordinary distances. Um, I am curious where the presence of Waddell Running Lady, did this start when you got the first 5K or the journey to, or was this, where did that come in?
So I was originally Waddell Sewing Lady. I ran a seamstress business out of my house for, a few years. We were, the crash happened and my husband took a pay cut. I needed to help get money. So it started out as Waddell Sewing Lady. But finally I was like, I'm posting all this running content, this is ridiculous. This has nothing to do with sewing. But it took honestly, I can't really even remember when it happened, but I finally just thought, no, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to change it to Waddell Running Lady because that's what I'm posting, not because I was, doing anything extraordinary or anything at the time, but that was just what I was posting. So I don't know if that makes sense. It's not an exciting story.
No, I mean, I just didn't know where it came about. And I love hearing that it was Sewing Lady. I have a
Yeah.
very similar, like, I was yoga, 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 and then I'm like running, right? So, but
Right.
so
Yeah.
it is interesting because things support us during different
Yeah.
periods of our life. But this seems to have stuck and
For sure.
to have also like been a very uh like strong identity in the world.
Mhm.
So I hear the medal, this feeling, and even going out and running. You might not subscribe to this. I know that it's slightly controversial, but I say even bad runs are good runs because
Mhm.
it is a blessing, privilege, and it's nothing short of a privilege to just get our bodies moving out there. I don't know if you're, but with that, what was that I want to keep going when it running took the form of so much more?
Mhm. So, so after that first 5K, I thought I want to do this again. And someone said, "Well, will you be here for the next one?" And I said, "Well, when's the next one?" "Oh, in 2 weeks." I said, "Oh yeah, I'll be here in 2 weeks." Then I started training for a half marathon, and then no, a 10K, then a half, and then a full. When I signed up for a full, I realized I needed a coach. I'm like, "There's no way I can do this by myself. I don't know anything about running." And let's see. So I'll try to make it as brief as possible. But I ran my first marathon, felt like $1 million, felt like a rock star, even though I was one of the last finishers. My first marathon took me 6 hours and 9 seconds. But I felt like a rock star, and I'm like, this is like everything, But so the coach that I had ended up having for 4 years, and his push was to get faster. And I didn't know that I wasn't fast. I didn't know that I was slow. That was not even like really in my mind at the time. I just knew that this was something still very new to me that made me feel good. And so I wanted to continue. But what really sealed the whole running thing for me was I love to hike and I love to run at this point. And I thought, why can't I marry the two together, the hiking and the running? And I didn't know about ultra marathons. I didn't really see people doing that, but a friend invited me to a Ragnar, and she wanted me to be on her Ragnar trail team. And I said, I have never run on a trail before, but I have done, 4 marathons. And she's like, you've done marathons. None of us have done marathons. You'll be fine on the trail. It's 15 miles over 24 hours. You've got this. I had already been feeling like I didn't want the push. It had been 4 years by this point, and my coach was pushing, like, you need to go get faster. You need to, this, and I wasn't feeling it anymore. I was starting to not enjoy like my runs because it started feeling really just forced and a lot of pressure and just not fun. And when I went out on the trail at night during Ragnar, I looked and the moon was shining. I tell this in every podcast I'm a guest on, but the moon was shining. Here's the Swaros. I'm listening to ghost stories. I look ahead and there is this line of runners running up the mountain and their headlamps are bobbing. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. I came back and the captain of the Ragnar team goes, what did you think? Because, everybody's asleep. And I said, yes, I loved it. That sealed the deal. I switched coaches. I started training for trail things and ultra, and I found my home. And I just when I met the trail community and when I ran my first ultra marathon just a couple of months later because I couldn't wait, everybody said hi to me. They stopped, even if they were running 100 miles, and said, hey, I know you from social media. You're Waddell running lady. I show my videos to the kids that I coach, and I tell them, if she can do it, you can do it. And I fell in love with the people there. And I still run road things every once in a while. I try to be hybrid so that, my muscles keep guessing and all that. But the trails are where it's at for me. And I know that was a kind of a long convoluted to answer your question, but that's really it. Trails are where I belong.
And what is it like? So I've never done a night event and I have
Mhm.
one on the calendar. Um, and I've never done a trail event, though I'm finally in a place that has trails. So I have just started exploring and getting out there. What about it? Because the ultra, right? The ultra distance will likely bring you into the dark and the
Yep.
dark and the light,
Yes.
especially the distances that you have experienced. Um, and I love you you speak in it like it's this really positive like experience, but there are moments that are not, both in training
Oh
and
yeah.
which is what I love watching honestly most of your feedback on the struggle, the
Yeah.
challenges. And so, but it always leaves with this how to say glory, but like this very positive vibration, right?
Mhm.
But what is that makes it worth like getting down in those darker spaces? Could you like
Sure.
describe your first like longer distances where you experienced maybe some challenges and
Yeah.
not how you overcame them, but how you moved through them?
So one of the things that that nighttime experience I told you about. The other thing is I told you my entire life I was a couch potato, right? Up until my early 40s. I stayed in my house, you know what I mean? And I took the kids to school and I went to the store. I didn't go outside. When I started running trails, and I say this so much, but it sounds so cliche. I did not honestly know that the sky was as blue as it is. I did not. I did not know how beautiful the world was. I had no clue. And It makes me cry sometimes to think about. There are wildflowers 15 minutes away from my house that I've lived at for 20 years, and I didn't know that they were there, until I started running the trails. Some of those experiences I feel like so high on life, and other times, like you said, I can think of one of my first 60, it was my first 62K, and I am extremely slow. I come in pretty much last at the end of every ultra event that I run. This run in particular, it was out at Coldwater Rumble here it's in Goodyear, Arizona. And it was 62K. I remember every 10K I was crying for some reason or other, just because I was just in this dark place. Like, my kids are at home asleep, my husband is at home, I'm here in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere. It's cold, I'm tired, my feet hurt, you know what I mean? My nutrition is messed up, and what am I doing? So I always in those moments tell myself, because I always tell people this, sometimes you do need to call it, and that is the right decision. Is sometimes the right decision is you don't finish. But most of the time, if you can just kind of rein things in a little bit and just take one more step, just think, can I take one more step? Yes, I can. Take that step. Can I take another one? Yeah, I can. Take another one. You can get through, as long as there's not anything, major wrong with you. I asked myself, how will I feel tomorrow if I give up today? How will I feel about myself if this is something I can do and I give up? And 99% of the time, that keeps me just plodding along, and I finish. And when I told you I felt like $1,000,000 at the finish line of my first marathon, but when I finish a grueling trail race, and it doesn't even matter if it's an ultra, it could be a shorter distance, I know what it takes to get through those things, and that is ideal. I mean, if you can feel better than $1,000,000, that's how I feel when I cross the finish line of those. Because I struggle, I'm not good at this at all. And yet when I get there, it takes so much grit. And especially, now after the things that I've gone through recently, it's like it's a victory just getting out there and getting any miles in at all.
I,
So
yeah, I appreciate that. And what I'm hearing also is it's not $1,000,000 plus in spite of the dark stuff. It's actually because of the dark
it
stuff.
is. It
You're like
is.
a legit survivor. You know what it
Yes.
took.
Yes,
Yeah,
because what would be if it was easy, how would that be in it? I mean, I feel like it is easy for some people, and I'm not saying that they don't enjoy it, but I think when you really have to dig deep and you have to find that grit to just keep pushing, it just makes it so much sweeter. And it doesn't matter if you do come in last. It's about so much more than that.
absolutely. And I got you beat for the longest first marathon, by the way. So I feel like you are, you're my tribe, and even just this doing it for the pure joy, not a time, not,
Right.
and I see though in me as well the craving for like the distance and trying that. But so many people are like me. They're like, wait, you're in my tribe. What do you think it is about, let's say just about the things that you're sharing online, you're sharing your training, you're sharing your I don't know if it's real time or do you record it and send it later, but you're sharing like a lot of live updates from actual races. What do you think it is that we all love so much, or that people do recognize you and are like, "Oh, Adele Running Lady." What do you think people resonate most about your journey?
I don't know. No,
I guess
it's
that is a
sometimes
weird question.
it is so funny because I will answer your question, I promise. But I recently ran past Mountain 50K with my friend Chris Morrison, and we talk about it sometimes because he's like, someone will come up and they'll be like, "Michelle," and they'll like give me this, they're crying and everything, and then they'll walk away, and he goes, "Who was that?" And I go, "I don't know," and he's like, okay, because I don't know either. And then the same thing would happen to him because he has a lot of followers too. And it's so funny because I'm just a regular lady, you know? The only thing I can think of is I don't have a typical runner's body. I it's obvious that I'm not good at this, right? And that I struggle. But I think the fact that I keep coming back and keep showing up and keep towing the line and just keep trying, even though um, I don't look like most other ultra runners. I feel like maybe, and I'm older, I'm 51. I think it gives people hope that she's not quitting, you know, she's still trying, she's doing these really hard things just because it's a dream of hers. And I think that maybe that's the thing that resonates. I don't know. Um, I just try to share everything as authentically as possible. I mean, I'm not pulling out my phone and just like, okay, cry, Michelle, and then film myself. It's like, no, this is real life. I really am struggling right now, or this really did just happen to me. And sometimes it is amazing, and other times it's really dark and it's very difficult to share. But I feel like that's also part of the journey that I'm on. And so maybe people relate to that. I wish I knew.
Well, no, I think that was a beautiful answer. As I was asking, I feel like maybe I was like, oh, maybe that's asking you to I don't know,
No, no, it was
but
fine.
but I was curious because it does it like you experience it. You experience people calling, calling out and saying hi,
Mhm.
and there's definitely things that we receive from what you share. What do you receive, or do you receive from the people who are on the other side, who you might not know by name, but you've had interactions? How do you receive
Yeah.
from
So
your
I have
people?
I have a couple examples that I can share with that. The first one would be my first ultra marathon back in January of 2023. I ran Coldwater Rumble 50K. That's a race where there are 100-mile people running 100 miles as well, and it's in loops. So they would continuously loop me. Um, and sometimes they were running towards me, and it didn't matter if they knew who I was or not, but they would just say, good job, you're doing so good, and I would be the only like 50K person out there because the other people were done. But so now it's just these people doing this longer distance. They know I'm not part of it. That that community that I fell in love with that day has continued to reach out to me over these years. And um, just another huge example would be when my son Austin was in the hospital for the last time. Um, they said, Michelle, why don't you have an Amazon wish list for Austin? And so I'm like, I don't know. And they said, get an Amazon wish list. I would put things on that list and it would be bought out like just in one day. And they're like, put more stuff on the list. Well, you can't fill a whole hospital room. He couldn't use a ton of things. Um, we had a GoFundMe. I didn't know we were going to have to bury my son. We didn't have burial insurance. We didn't have that. Everybody came through. Michelle, we love you. We love your son. We love what you give to our community. We want to give back. Shoe brands I've had reach out to me. Michelle, we just thought you would enjoy these. And sorry,
No, you are completely fine.
whatever I've given to the community, I've gotten back 100-fold. And I don't try to, but that's the thing. I'm not trying to, I don't have an agenda like, okay, today I'm going to, teach you guys how to do this. It's like, no, I'm just trying to share what I'm doing and hope in hopes that it helps somebody. But I have gotten so much back, so much more back from that even if I never got anything else, if no one else told me thank you or you're awesome or you're doing such a great job or you inspire me, it still would be worth it. And I don't really know how else to describe it, but I get so much back in return.
I appreciate you sharing, and no apologies for emotions. And it is the space and something that is impossible to have a conversation about without getting real about what is present
Yeah.
for you, which again is something that people connect with. And clearly, you don't have an agenda, and it is the pure authenticity of your shared experience that pulls out generosity from people. This isn't a very generous day and age, but you experience it because of who you are and the authentic way that you share that. That's you're sharing yourself. And it, I'm so not well, it I'm glad to hear that people like have come out the way they have because you share so much and have supported them so much as well. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, you had mentioned when we started all the replacement of the importance on last 10 pounds or the importance placed on what was your initial like crack of the door open towards this world of running, and said that it has given you or become so much more. What has what has running, what is it to you now? And as you've moved through one of the most challenging experiences that one would have to go through. Um,
So I think obviously over time it has kind of evolved a little bit. Instead of just being something that, I'm training for something, or like you said, losing the last 10 pounds. Even even the even the, I don't know what the word would be, the novelty of crossing a finish line. I've crossed a lot of finish lines now. And but yet there's so many more to cross, if that makes sense. There's so many more that I want. I think it's something that is just for me. And I'm the only runner in the family. Well, my daughter's taking it up, but um, it's something that I get to experience on my own terms, and I don't have to do it someone else's way. I don't have to run at someone else's pace. I don't have to. I don't. It's just given me this perspective on life that I didn't have before, and I've seen so many parallels between not only my life, but just life in general and running, that I'm always learning something from it. And just the sheer joy of being out there, especially on the trails, just being out there and seeing God's creation and seeing how the wind, moves the needles on the saguaros or whatever. You see the bunnies running around, or you see a coyote. Just, it's time where I'm alone, and I'm alone with my thoughts and with my heart and with my everything. And it brings me peace, and it brings me joy um, that I had never experienced before. And I am kind of losing my thought now. But the other thing about it is I continue to be able to grow. Like, I am training for my second 100-mile race, and that's happening December 29th. And then I have another race planned for May that, yes, it's 100-mile plus race, but it's my first point to point, starting in Jerome, ending in Flagstaff. I've never done that before. Well, I can look down the road, and for the rest of my life, I will never be able to do everything, that I want to do. And so there's just so many things to look forward to. And that's another thing that running has given me, is so many things to look forward to, and so many more friends to make, and so many more experiences to have, because life is too short to not do those things, or to not experience those things. And I've learned, especially since losing my son, that I don't have anything to lose by just showing up and trying. Even if I fail, so what? I'm alive. I got to do this thing and get as far as I got. And so I don't know if any of that makes sense, but that's in a nutshell, that's what running continues to give me. So
Thank you. And yeah, that totally brightened my lights to the beauty of having things on the calendar,
Hmm.
right? And like that, you know, life life has all of its the weight of it, right, in the day
Yeah.
to day. But when we have these things on the calendar as these like
Yeah.
spotlight moments to work towards during and through
Yes.
life, the hard stuff, grief, the busyness, all of it.
Yes.
But there are these like bright spots that we keep running towards.
Yes.
So yeah, I really appreciate that. So you shared what was next, which was my next
Oh,
question. These two 100-mile, and are you training presently?
yes, yes, I am. So, the first one is loops. It's 1.4 mile loops. It's a 72-hour event called Across the Years. I ran it last year as well. My goal is to do it a little bit faster this year, not because I need a PR, but just I want to be able to just see what it's like to keep going without sleeping and just kind of get that experience. So that's paved. It's pretty much all dirt and sidewalk. So that's it takes its own kind of mental grit to get through an event like that. Trust me, 71 loops. Oh. Um, but the one in May is Sedona Canyon's 125, and it's going to be a lot of climbing, and so I'm having to ramp up my mileage, starting now, and practice with my poles, and do a lot of climbing training, hills and mountains and trying to get a lot of vert in that I don't typically get. So there's just a lot of fun to look forward to, a lot of challenges. It's going to be hard, but that makes it all worth it.
Absolutely. And with that, I actually haven't are you still doing your podcast?
So I have not recently had any episodes. I do plan to take it up again, but yeah, it's just been too more than I can deal with emotionally right now, but I do have an intention of doing that again.
And
Yes.
it's fun of the run?
It is. Yeah, I believe there's about 63 episodes maybe
Yeah, so
available right now.
if you're if you're like new, just get in there and start at the first. I mean, I just adore the recaps. It's very important for like me. I love to listen to like recaps of events during
Me
when I'm out
too.
for a long period of time. So I
Me too.
really appreciate listening to all of those episodes. And when we moved from Florida to Tennessee, I went maybe 1+ years, maybe 1.5 years without recording anything at all. And I know that like things get moved aside and
Yes.
then they can come back at any time. But I am looking forward to following your 100-mile training.
Thank
Um,
you.
and then across the years, is it sort of like a party too? Is it a very fun? It sounds fun. I
Yes, so
remember listening or at least watching some of your experience. So is that a bit of a party, even though there's the
yes.
cycle
So
of
it's over New Year's Eve. So you can start, it's a 6-day event. So it starts at the end of the year and finishes in the new year. So they have a New Year's Eve celebration, they have fireworks, they have, champagne. I don't drink, but they have, that kind of stuff to celebrate the new year. You'll see people crossing, going across the start finish line during that time. And it's all of my people are there. You know what I mean? There's so many people that I know that it's kind of the big event of the year besides Javelina 100. People fly in from all over, and it's amazing. There's so much support, and it's a really, really, really awesome event.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Hmm.
I was wondering if there was someone, which could have been maybe you X number of years ago or me 5 years ago, that was like had an interest, but like I really like, yeah, it's fine. Okay, you can do it. It's cool seeing that, someone who I'm not used to seeing running, but still really like, you must have something extraordinary. I do actually think you have something very extraordinary in you, but like a person who's like, they are special. This is still not for me. The whole running thing. What would you, or what would you say to that person?
Well, you have to have a strong why, I think,
Yeah.
to keep going at least. But as far as starting, you're not going to know unless you just get out there and do it, and it's not going to feel good at first. But if it's something that I am 99% sure that if you just start, you will keep going just because there are so many benefits and so much good that comes from not only just health wise, but your mind and clarity and having something just for yourself to be able to do. People that are super social, run clubs, all kinds. There's so many aspects and facets of running that there's something for everybody. And you don't have to ever run a race in your life. You can just run around your neighborhood. There's no like, the only prerequisite is you just have to run. That's it. And you don't even have to run far or fast. So I think everybody should try. I think everybody ought to give it a shot and just go out there. It's just simple to start. And so why not?
Yeah,
Why not?
I love that. And then you brought up such an important part though, like your why can change over time.
Mhm.
Um, and it doesn't have to be like have the greatest depth. What is your why today?
Well, goodness. It's there's a lot of I have a lot of them. Hmm. I think I think my why has changed again, after losing my son, because now what I am more focused on is what I mentioned earlier is life is short and I want to experience as much of the beauty and all of the awesome things that the world has to offer, the scenery, the mountains, the rivers, the trees, the deserts, everything that I can, because life is short. And so I want to do something with my life that is meaningful. And I want to, in a sense, have to struggle to get there, and have grit and have, some challenges along the way because it makes life sweeter when you have to go through things. And so my why is for all of those things. It's for my children, it's for my grandchildren. I want them to see me pushing through everything else and not giving up and not stopping when things get hard and when I don't maybe feel like going. I want my little grandbabies, my little grandgirls to see, that Gigi is running is important to her and she's flying to wherever she's flying to and she's gonna, climb mountains and she's gonna run and she's gonna do these river crossings and she loves that and I want them to see that. And so I have a lot of whys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And just thank you for your time. I really am grateful to learn more about you and to have this opportunity to connect in this way. Um, is there anything I didn't ask that you might want to share? Or I don't know, you went pretty deep, so I'm like
I'm
really
sorry.
again. No, oh my goodness, not no, please.
Okay.
But if there's anything that I didn't say that you're like, oh, we didn't say that.
I don't think so. I can't think of everything else, except that I love Sally too. And that's my favorite hat that I own. And I just got her new SOAR shirt that says
Me
SOAR on the
too.
front. Yes, I love it. And Sally is my favorite. I would love to meet her someday. So Sally, listen to the podcast and then you can meet me. And
I'll tag her. I got the SOAR
yeah, thanks.
shirt.
Yeah.
And I wore it for maybe like the first 10 minutes of my, and then I got really hot.
It's hot. Yeah,
But
it is a warm fabric.
I'll
Yeah,
wear it for all my workouts and I love the gear and the hats and also the mission
me too.
and I do think that may have been how I was so fortunate to be introduced to you, even just again
Sure.
virtually. So
That's
even though
cool.
we're still virtual, I feel like this is much more of an introduction. I hope to meet you sometime in
I would
Arizona.
love that.
I'm in Tennessee. If you want to do any of the crazy Laz races, take a look at
Okay.
little dogs. Um, if you do it, I'll do it.
Okay. Okay.
So anyway, but again, I am so grateful for you, for the authenticity that you bring to this sport, to this area. to the space of social media where it's so lacking. It's just amazing to experience such a genuine and generous heart as yours. So I'm just grateful for you. And I am grateful for our listeners. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, wishing everyone peace, power, and presence today.
Thank you.
As I